The update 37.2 release notes are out, and this update will be released tomorrow on Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023. And in this video, we're not going to do a patch report yet, that will be tomorrow, but I wanted to talk about what's releasing tomorrow. We're actually getting the Mariner class already. So the Mariner class will release tomorrow. And of course, in the patch note, we have some basic information about the Mariner that people can read if they want. Just pause the video and read it if you feel like it. But in this video, I thought I would just look at some footage from my previous videos. Really briefly, just talk about the Mariner and the different kind of specs they have and how they felt on beta. So as we know, the Mariner has 3 different lines. You have the red line, which is basically a DPS line, where you do your best to deal as much damage as possible to your enemies. The blue line Mariner, the Shanty Caller, is the blue line, and it's kind of like the red captain role, where you deal damage, but you also buff your allies and improve their DPS as well. So blue line Mariner, very comparable to red captain. And we have the yellow line, the Rover, and this line is very comparable to the yellow Loremaster or the yellow Burglar, with mainly focusing on debuffing and crowd control. So in every video that I did with the Mariner, I always looked at the baseline skills. We can see that you have all these Sail 2 skills. I basically go through all the different skills. We know we're going to have port skills, and I believe you can bring your fellowship. So you can sail places with your fellowship as a Mariner, kind of like the Hunter can port people around. The Mariner also has a balance system. It's kind of like the rune-keeper attunement system. You can see here that the middle is 25 out of 50. Your starting position will be in the center, and then depending on the skills you use, you will move towards the left or to the right. So aft is towards the left, or is toward the right. And generally, I would say that the DPS skills will take you towards the right. These skills are typically the red ones that you can see at the bottom here. And I would say that buffing and debuffing and healing typically moves you towards the left. So the baseline of the Mariner is to try to find a balance. For example, if you're DPSing, you want to like build your way to the right, because you do get a buff if you're in the, let's call it the balanced part of the fore, or the balanced part of the aft. But if you go too far, if you go into this section here and stay there for too long, you will get debuffed, you get stunned, and you get mischance, you get bad things. So the idea is to build towards the right, maybe be in this area, but not for too long. And then you can recenter. There's a skill called recenter, this one at control 2. And it will take you back to the center, which at that point you start building towards this side again and back to the center. So it's all about kind of like working your way towards one side and then going back to the middle. If you play like the buffing part, it's probably the same idea, but the left is a bit more defensive, the right is a bit more offensive. So the baseline idea for the Mariner is to try to stay balanced, not go too far to one side. I'm not going to be looking too much at all the skills in this video. The skills that we see on the bottom here are the baseline skills that you get for every line as a Mariner. Quickly gonna look at those skills. Are some healing skills, some CC skills, you have your basic interrupt, you have your cleanse, interrupt, basic skills that every Mariner has. There are a couple of stances that will help you push towards one side, so you kind of have to pick and decide which way you want the stance to push you towards. There's of course the blue skills, they're typically more defensive, and the red skills are typically more offensive, and you kind of use those skills to work your way towards one side, and then try to get back to the center again, and rinse and repeat. Another thing I should mention about how the Mariner skills work: a lot of the skills work in combinations with the next skill. So especially the DPS skills and a lot of the blue skills as well will have an effect on the next skill. So you kind of want to think about the order you do your skills in, because the skill you use will affect the next skill, will affect the next skill, and so on. There's a lot of different combinations. These combinations might deal extra damage, might give you some bleeds, maybe they'll make the buff on your next skill a bit stronger. There's basically a lot of different combinations you can use. So I did look at the trait lines, but I'm not going to spend too much time in this video looking at the trait lines. But it seems like the best way to trade for Red Mariner is probably most of your points into red line and then going deep into blue. There's a lot of good stuff in blue for your DPS, and going deep into blue to get the marked targets trait for some extra incoming damage on your targets. I think these are most of the skills that you get in red line, so if you want to take a look, you can pause the video and just look at the skills. The blue line Mariner, of course, gets all the same baseline skills, but there are some different skills you get in blue. But basically, like I said, a blue line is kind of like a red captain, as we can see from the breaking of Thangorodrim skill. 25% incoming damage for 20 seconds, and also effects applied to enemies within 10 meters, plus 10% incoming damage for 15 seconds. So kind of like an AoE Oathbreaker Shame. It's not as strong as the Oathbreakers. Oathbreakers is 35% and Thangorodrim is 25%, but it lasts for 5 more seconds, and it also has the AoE component to it as well. Blue Mariner, kind of like a red captain, but in a slightly different way for some interactions. Also worth noting, a lot of the red captain and blue Mariner skills that are kind of the same, like this skill and Oathbreakers, do not stack together, so you can't put this and Oathbreakers on the same target. If you do, they will not stack together. The same thing goes for the red captain banner, and the blue Mariner also has a banner type skill. You definitely want to watch out for that. If you bring a blue Mariner and a red captain, you kind of want to alternate their skills and not have them go to waste. So if you ever decide on blue Mariner and red captain in a raid, you kind of want to spread their debuffs out and their buffs out, not use them at the same time. So when it comes to the blue Mariner and their traits, same thing as red. It seems like you want to put most of your points into blue to get the most important stuff. And you kind of have two different options where I'm not sure which one is better. You can of course go into red line for some more personal DPS, boosting your damage a little bit more, which will probably be the line I think that the meta will shift towards. But there's also the option of going deep into yellow line, getting this trait right here. This trait here is basically a free telling mark, 5% incoming damage on your target at all times. So it's going to be a question about improving your personal DPS into red line, or improving the groups or the raid's DPS by going into yellow line. So it's going to be interesting to see what people go for here. The yellow Mariner is kind of like the yellow Lore Master, like I said. As you can see, they have a skill called Caustic Brew. This works kind of like an ancient craft. There's a lot of different pots and debuffs they can throw at your enemies. They can also apply lores, so to speak, like the Fire Lore and Frost Lore that the Lore Master provides. They also have their ways to put these lores on your enemies. And I would say overall, I think Yellow Mariner might be the spec that will have the hardest time fitting into a group. And I'm also curious to see how you would trade as a Yellow Mariner. Would you go into red for personal DPS? Would you go into blue to get a bit more group support? It would probably be something like yellow-blue. Like, that's my first thoughts about it. But Yellow Mariner definitely has potential, and it'll be interesting to see how people decide to play this role. But basically, the way I see the Mariner class on release, I think red will of course be the most popular. If you're out questing on landscape, you will definitely play red line. Blue line seems like it can definitely take the place of a red captain. By no way do I think that blue Mariner is stronger than a red captain, but I do think that blue Mariner can definitely take the place. Let's say your red captain is not available that was supposed to go, but you have someone who can play blue Mariner. I think the blue Mariner will be a suitable replacement. So blue Mariner definitely looks good enough to be a red captain alternative. And the yellow line Mariner is the one I'm most interested to see how it plays out. It definitely has some interesting tools and interesting combinations it can perform on your enemies. But I would say that Yellow Mariner is the one I'm least sure about making it into a meta. But it will definitely be interesting to see how everything works out. But the brand new Mariner class is releasing tomorrow, only one day away. Most likely it will be part of the pre-order stuff. I'm expecting the information for the pre-order for Umbar to release tomorrow before the patch, and most likely the Mariner will be part of the pre-order for Umbar. So I'm expecting that you'll definitely have to pre-order Umbar if you want to play this class tomorrow. But definitely exciting times. Tomorrow, the brand new class in LOTRO, the Mariner class, releases. I'm going to end the video here by playing my old skill animations video where I looked at all the animations for the Mariner, and hopefully tomorrow people will get the first taste of the brand new Mariner class. If you enjoyed the video, please consider dropping a like and subscribing as it really helps out the channel. And if you like LOTRO, I would really recommend joining my Discord servers. You can also support me directly through my Ko-fi website. If you're playing or looking to play Lord of the Rings online, there is one place you need to be. The Ghyniverse is a Discord server created for the community of the players of Lord of the Rings Online. The server is getting close to 7,000 members, and in this server you'll find tons of helpful information. There's monthly giveaways, easy access to patch notes, you can keep up with my YouTube videos, my streams. If you're a streamer, you can ask for the streamer role and you can announce your streams in the other stream channel. There are discussion channels for pretty much everything, every class, monster players. But the best thing about this server is probably the Gearing Resources tab, where you can find anything from trait lines for every class, every build. There are stat goals, where you can find out what stats you should aim for on your characters. Really helpful information about drop rates from instances, as well as screenshot from all the new loot that appears in the game. If you enjoy LOTRO, you should definitely consider joining this server, and hopefully I'll see you in Middle Earth. If you were part of the Ghyniverse already, you might have noticed that another tab appeared at the top, the LFF server. This server is a brand new server that I created, the LFF Ghyniverse. In this server, you can select which servers you want to keep up with, and once you select your server, say you select Arkenstone, you will see the LFF, the kinship advertisement, looking for kinship and trade channels, and there's also voice channels if people want to use those. The LFF channel is basically a looking for fellowship channel where people can post if they need players for the runs, and this way people don't have to be logged into the game to see the chat, they can just instead get a notification on their Discord. There's also a kinship advertisement page where kins can post their kinship advertisement and have people join their kins, and you can also post in the looking for kinship chat if you're looking for a kinship, but make sure to take a look in the kinship advertisement first and look through all the kin to find a suitable kin for you. There's also a trade channel if people want to buy or sell stuff that you can use. Hopefully you'll consider joining this server to bring the community even more together, not just in the game, but also outside of the game.